Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow.
I've got a question for you. Did you make it through yesterday and the thing?
This is Truth to Ponder with Bob Bierman.
So my wife and I got through yesterday, as I'm sure many of you did as well. Was it an easy day? Of course not. Do I feel the right person stood out there in front of Justice John Roberts? No. Do I believe that Biden won the election? No. And I say that both empirically and instinctively. There's just a part of me, I look back over my lifetime. Now, I'm not going to talk when I was a kid, like 1960 or 1964. I really didn't understand when you're like 10 or 12. By the time 1968 rolled around, and I'm entering high school, I had a feeling Nixon would win, and I really felt he would win in 1972. There was no doubt in my mind that Carter was going to win in 1976, and I think the whole world knew after Carter there was not a chance that Ronald Reagan would lose in 1980 or 1984. I wondered a little bit about George H. Herbert Walker Bush, but he was able to run the coattail legacy of Ronald Reagan, and of course he won in 88. And after he broke his tax pledge, and in spite of the wonderful showing in the Gulf War, he lost. He lost because people began to question his true conservatism. And then Ross Perot came along and siphoned off just enough of the vote to ensure that we were blessed with Bill and Hillary Clinton for the next 8 years. Then came George W. Bush, and I had a weird feeling, very weird feeling. I just had a hard time supporting him. I don't know why. He was the Texas governor. You'd think that would be enough credentials, but there was just something about him that I found disturbing. I never could put my finger on it. And he got into office. I can remember I was living in Sarasota County. I was working that day in Sarasota when the airplanes hit the buildings in New York City. George W. Bush happened to be in Sarasota at an elementary school, the Booker Elementary School, and he was reading to a class of elementary school students when he got the word, and off they went and took off out of Air Force One, just barreling out across the Gulf, and nobody knows at that point where they went till much later. There was no doubt that in 2004, I didn't doubt at all that he would win again. I didn't think the world was ready for, JFK, as in John Kerry, being president. There was no surprise. 2008, with the economic collapse, Obama winning was absolutely no surprise. Besides, the Republicans had a super weak candidate at the time by the name of John McCain. I didn't think for a moment he had a chance of winning. I voted for him, wasn't thrilled, but I knew. In 2012, it was kind of a toss-up. I didn't really know, because we had, 2010, the House and the Senate were back. But I wasn't all that surprised. In other words, looking at the results, it made sense, totally made sense at the time. 2016 comes along. And I wondered who would win. Would it be Hillary Clinton, or would it be this newcomer to politics, Donald Trump? Of course, every media outlet had pronounced him dead on arrival in terms of even getting the nomination, let alone getting on to winning the presidency. They say hindsight is 20/20, and I'm sure that it is. Because as I look back now to 2016, those 8 years under the Obama administration gave them plenty of time to figure out the best way to perpetuate themselves in office. They'd seen the mistakes of the Tea Party and how it had undone them in 2010. Hard to believe, 20 years ago, the Tea Party movement in the United States. They figured out a lot of stuff in those intervening years. And the idea of stuffing ballot boxes is as old as the Democrat Party is. I'm sorry if you're a Democrat, but it's true. There are many people that speculate that Nixon really won in 1960, not JFK. Nobody knew till the day after the election who won. So here we are. We went through, as I call it, the thing yesterday, where all the old swamp creatures gathered together and had a wonderful time. In other words, as somebody shared with me in a message, there was a great convening of the swamp inside their hastily erected walls in Washington City on Wednesday. All of the old swamp creatures were in attendance, even had the high hypocrisy of a high mass as the reptiles paraded in their finery. I didn't write this, but somebody else did, and there's some humor in this. It doesn't get any swampier than Bill and Hillary Clinton, Barack and Michelle wearing a whatever kind of belt she wears. Somebody said it looks like a World Wrestling Federation belt. They were in attendance, and one wondered if the Chief Justice might not just skip over old Joe and swear Barack in for a third term. See, this is the United States oligarchy of government at its pinnacle. And honestly, when I look at these people, including the highly disappointing Chief Justice of the United States, John the Swamp Creature Roberts, given to us by W. Bush. He was supposed to be a great conservative. You know, I told you yesterday, and I'm going to say it again, how many times do conservatives and Republicans have to be lied to? How many years? How many decades? Are we going to push for a half a century of being lied to? We finally get one candidate that didn't lie, and they didn't like him in the swamp. They had to make sure he was gone. They really believed in 2016 Hillary was going to win. They already had enough ballots stuffed, ready to go, I believe. You can't convince me otherwise. Those elections in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania were real close. Real close. They didn't have enough ballots ready. I don't think they conceived of the number of people that were going to come out and vote. So this time around, this is my opinion. This is not some word from the Lord. This is not some kind of prophecy, and I'm going to talk about those clowns in just a minute. Just logic tells me the numbers don't add up. People do not live in open fields in the middle of Georgia and register to vote. Dead people don't vote unless they're Democrat. You know that, and I know that. And the swamp, they circle the wagons around their own. When I watched how Mitch McConnell, before the election, he was in deep trouble of maybe losing his Senate seat. And he's on every conservative TV program, whether it be on Fox or Newsmax or One American Network, anywhere he could get his face on the TV, begging Trump supporters for money to keep the Senate. Then he stabs you in the back, spits in your face, The Republican Party, as far as I'm concerned, and I've been a registered Republican since 1972. I served at the county level. I have been a speaker at many meetings. I have done my part for the party over the years, and I've been left disappointed 80 to 90% of the time. Tell me the great candidates you've given me since I first started voting in 1972. Who have you given me? Ronald Reagan. That was great. George H.W. Bush. Not so great. And you gave me Bob Dole? Bob Dole? This is Bob Dole, and Bob Dole wants to be your president. And I'm going, this guy has been in Washington, D.C. longer than the Potomac River. And this is what you're giving me in 1996 to go up against Clinton? Then it was the coronation of George W. Bush in 2000. No wonder Barack Obama was a shoo-in 2008. Who did you give us then? Gave us John McCain. And then 2012, he gave us, a real conservative in another swamp creature that gave his version of Obamacare to Massachusetts. You gave us Mitt Romney? Why do you think the party faithful, like myself, had enough? We couldn't take it anymore. The Republican Party is in big trouble. Now, we need to start talking about a couple of other things today. I've got several things on my mind. Number one, how many of you people, like me, were getting emails from a lot of your friends, relatives? In my case, because of doing this show, I get a lot of information. People will say, hey, somebody sent me this link for this video. Take a look. What do you think? And I would tell people on some of these videos, just forget it. Don't forward it. Don't even acknowledge it exists. It's a bunch of nonsense. The one thing Democrats are good at is making people believe things that are not true. And they've mastered the art of what I call reverse psychops. It was about 2 years ago, somebody mentioned, hey, you got to look at this thing, this guy called Q. And every once in a blue moon, I take a look and I'm reading this stuff of, all these people are going to get arrested and Hillary's going to jail and this and that and the other. And it's just any day now, next week, next month, tonight. And time goes by and you kind of go back and look and you're realizing none of this stuff's ever happening. Yet people are hanging on every word. And they're sharing it on their Facebook pages or their Twitter or anything else they can. Problem is, and I've got some wonderful friends, I love them dearly, and anything that comes on Facebook that they agree with, whether they check it out or not, oh man, they got to pass it on. And I have to write them, I'm going, dear so-and-so, take this down. It is not even true. The left is making you look like an idiot because you're too lazy to look it up and double check the stats or anything about what you're sharing before you share it. And all that does, and the Democrats are masters at this, I believe they put 90% of this stuff out, and then somebody picks it up and they run with it. I have a friend of a friend who's in D.C. that knows this. I've heard it all before. Look, I got this email. And somebody sent it to me and saying, well, these two people, they have this wonderful ministry about Israel and God talks to them. Yes, God talks to them and gives them words of knowledge. And this is what he and his wife sitting in their car. They're doing, how people do the little video. They got the camera in the car and they're sitting side by side and they got all this knowledge of God. And And this is what they shared.
Let's get into what's going on. I got a message this morning from Washington that everything is going to go down tomorrow. And when we say everything is going to go down, we're talking about martial law, but martial law that is more centralized, from what I understand, with Washington, D.C. And I have been told in the past that it could also include the states where they were having issues with election fraud, which would be Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, I believe, Michigan, those states there. That may include that.
Okay, so how did that little bit of inside information work out? It didn't. While there was a great show of force in Washington, D.C., more soldiers in D.C. than when they inaugurated and brought in Abe Lincoln, like during the Civil War. Yeah, they had this show of force. And they could excuse it because of what had happened the week before, even though they're trying to blame Trump, which he didn't incite a riot. I think part of that was also pre-planned by those that don't like Trump, not those that are for him. But they were able to get their show of force and get their photo opportunity, their Hollywood production of their guy becoming the 46th president of the United States. Now, I tell you, I get all of these emails and suggestions and, oh, you got to see this video from this person. This person says this. I'm not going to mention their names, but somebody sent me a video of these two supposed insiders, and they're just pontificating that they know more than anybody else. And some of the big time people that have inside knowledge, they're, as they said, and you got this clip's about 2 minutes, and I'm going to apologize for its length up front. But I want you to understand the stuff that I got to weed through each day. And people wonder why am I not playing this stuff on the air back weeks ago or on Monday or on Tuesday? There's a reason. I'm going to explain. I want you to listen to these total clowns. They're not inside of anything but their own ego. Listen to what they're saying about what was supposed to happen this was all going to happen, I think either Tuesday or Wednesday morning, on the last full day, which would have been the 19th. I think this video came out Monday. I'll double check it as we're playing it. Listen carefully. And this is the kind of stuff that people want me to drop everything and play for you on this program. And then after you listen to it, you tell me.
Now I see people losing their nerve. Harry Makow, David Hodges, Hal Turner. They're falling like flies.
Now, just as a point of reference for a number of you that are listening to this program for the first time, on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on WRMI, I've got a 10 p.m. Eastern airing that follows the Hal Turner program. Now, I've listened to him from time to time, and I generally don't always agree with him. There's some things that he says that I find rather fascinating, but see, I don't jump into every wind of conspiracy that's out there, because it's been my experience that half the time you get egg on your face. And so anytime I share anything with you, I'm doing my best to vet it out, to be certain, not to have an uncomfortable feeling in the back of my mind that something is wrong with what I'm sharing. Because, see, too many of us, and I was guilty years ago, and now, I've got some wonderful friends, and they just pass along everything that sounds good. Now these two guys, I'm not going to give you their name, but they were bantering back and forth on what's going to happen because of the election fraud, and Trump knew it. He'd already signed papers, and there was a notice that went out to all radio and TV stations late last week, and by the way, it's not the first time, reminding radio and TV stations of their obligations of using the emergency activation system. And everybody made a big deal of this one. But, I'm thinking of the years that I've been in radio. Compliance of usage of the EAS system at radio stations, it can be problematic. I'm just telling you, they have to be constantly reminded not to play with the tones and not to mimic it, and to make sure they're keeping their test. All these things that you're supposed to be doing, there's a problem. So it seems that about every 6 months to a year and a half, somewhere in there, there's always this notice to remind everybody, and they always do it right before they start double-checking stations to see if they really have the gear working. So a lot of people made a big deal out of nothing, in my opinion. I've owned a radio station. Believe me, I've gotten these emails in the past. And so they're acting like, well, this TV station. Well, they don't even know the difference between a TV network and a TV station. But I digress. That somehow Donald Trump's going to activate the emergency activation system, and he's going to tell the public that we're under martial law. Listen to this guy kind of just ramble on about what's going to happen. And this is going to happen before the 20th. It's going to happen on the 19th. They're saying this on the 18th. So listen to what he said was going to happen.
Has the president signed the Insurrection Act, as I have been told but have not been able to verify?
I've understood that he has. I've understood that.
All right. Now, Charlie, here's the next big one. Forgive me for interrupting, but I want to make the most of the people that are sending me emails, ripping their hair out and rending their clothes off. Trump has moving boxes at the White House. Melania Trump has said goodbye to Be Best on Twitter. There are indications, many indications. Sidney Powell has done a horrible rant against the president that was published by Jim Stone. So they're all little things that if I were Mike Flynn, I would be throwing them out there as disinformation. What's the Charlie Ward interpretation of these little signals to the Democrats that Trump might actually be planning to slink out of Washington tomorrow?
Well, it's very interesting. So I've probably got a very, very different view to most, because I've been looking at little details rather than what's been put out there as smoke screens. Just remember that the corporation of the United States of America has already been shut down. So even the vote itself has no value for the president, because the corporation doesn't exist anymore. The corporation's been shut down. So there's no point having a CEO or a president of a company that doesn't exist.
Charlie, let me jump in. Let me jump in and tell people that don't understand this whole corporation thing, which I frankly find confusing. But for the benefit of everybody, I have posted Anna von Reitz's stuff on the corporation at phi-beta-iota.net, so they can go to phi-beta-iota.net, PHI, and look up Anna von Reitz and get all of this corporation stuff that many people, including me, do not completely understand. But I trust you 1,000%. So please go on and forgive me.
Well, the United States government was a corporation. So it was the United States, and it was registered in London, in Companies House. The United States Government Corporation Limited.
Do you now understand why there are times that I come before this microphone ready to pull out my thinning hair, the last bit of it? It's because I'm trying to... The whole purpose of this radio program is called Truth to Ponder. And having people speculate and just make stuff up, or who's ever seen that wonderful portrait that was done many, many years ago? He used to be the illustrator for the Saturday Evening Post. Norman Rockwell. The name almost disappeared for a second. He did a lot of these great illustrations. I mean, just phenomenal for the Saturday Evening Post for quite a long time. Probably one of the best artists and storytellers of his generation in artwork. And one of his great portraits shows somebody whispering something into somebody's ear. And it's called gossip. And so you start at the top left corner of the page, and you've got somebody whispering something into somebody's ear, and then it goes on frame after frame after frame after frame, line after line after line, and at the very bottom right, the last little, this is almost like a cartoon strip thing, it's somebody telling the original person that little bit of gossip. In other words, it's gone through like 20 or 30 people, and now it's gotten back to the originator of the gossip, and this person has a shocked look on their face because, well, obviously, as gossip tends to do, the story got bigger and bolder and crazier. I'm afraid that's what's been happening with too many people being manipulated, and I call this a reverse psyop. I think it was by design that misinformation gets fed to people that you rely upon, and they say something, and then it gets out there, or somebody picks it up and they put it on their Facebook page, and then you share it, and then somebody else shares it. 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes 16, 32, and, in about a week's time, 1 million people have seen this bit of misinformation and believe it and keep sharing it. I try as hard as I can to give you honesty and integrity in this program. I still hold in the depths of my heart, and it's going to be very difficult to convince me otherwise, that this was an honest election. I don't believe that it was. I still don't. I don't have proof, but I'm telling you, I've got a lifetime of voting and experience, and you know when something doesn't feel right. But I don't know yet what it is. Perhaps time will tell. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I just wanted to share with you the kind of stuff that I've been getting. And now we have to collectively stop where we're at, pick up the pieces, and take a look around us. Yeah, the world is going to change. It's going to change a lot over the next weeks and months. 2 years anyway. And whether Joe Biden remains the president for 2 years or 4 years, we don't know. Right now, the swamp is a content place for the swamp creatures in D.C., and they have not disappointed me. The ones I never trusted are proving themselves to be not trustworthy all over again. How many times are you going to tolerate?
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies.
I think for many of us, we're tired of being lied to by media, lied to by politicians. We're just tired of being lied to. We're tired of being deceived. We're tired of being led around like sheep. We're tired of being misinformed. In some cases, we're just plain tired of it all. I can understand the frustration that so many of you have because I share it. I really do. It is so hard to get before this microphone every day and knowing that it's not as cut and dry as we wish it would be. When the election happened back in November, when I went to bed that night, I thought it was all over and everything was going to be fine. Donald Trump was going to win. That was my instinct. And then the stuff that happened in the middle of the night that I missed. And there are many people, we look at each other and we say, we can't tell you why, but it doesn't feel right. The Bible says, abstain even from the appearance of evil. Man, they didn't even bother to abstain from the appearance in many states. The courts, and I don't want to ever hear this from anybody again. Oh, the courts have they looked at it and they tossed it out. There's no evidence of any voter fraud. If you believe that, you're a total idiot. The courts did not toss anything out based on any merit of any case. The Texas case, for example, I mentioned this yesterday. Oh, Texas doesn't have any standing. What do you mean they don't have standing? This is why I think the Supreme Court is also inhabited by stinky swamp creatures. The worst and smelliest of them all is John the Traitor Roberts. Thank you, George W. Bush, for ensuring Obamacare. Thank you to hear nothing like reading that Clyburn from South Carolina at the Biden inauguration is telling George W. Bush, or George W. Bush saying thank you for helping Joe Biden become the president of the United States. Man, that makes you sick, doesn't it? Just put me on a roller coaster and watch me throw up.
This is Truth to Ponder with Bob Bierman.
The Akko lesson coming up. Shalom Aleichem. This is the nice Jewish boy, Jonathan Kahn, your Jewish connection, bringing you the riches of your Jewish roots in Jesus. Now get your pen out as fast as you can so you don't miss out on receiving a special free gift you're going to get and love in a moment. Now, a few miles north of Haifa is the exotic seaport city of Akko on the coast of Israel. Akko is an almost mystical place. It's filled with buildings and streets erected by the Crusaders and Muslims. Tourists come all over to see its exotic architecture. But the importance of Akko has little to do with all that. Akko is found in the Bible, in the New Testament book of Acts, and in the Old Testament book of Judges. The city of Akko was given to the tribe of Asher. But the people of Asher never took it. They never apprehended it. They never entered the inheritance that God gave them. Akko remained for most of its history a non-Jewish seaport. And so the city of Akko stands as a stark lesson for the people of God. You see, God can give you a gift and you can fail to receive it. God can give you an inheritance and you can fail to inherit it. God can give you a blessing and you can fail to receive it. God can give you a promise and you can fail to ever know it. You see, God promises you the best and most wonderful life, and he gives it to you. So if the best and most wonderful life is not the life you're knowing, it's not because it isn't there for you. It is, but you have to receive it. You have to enter it. It's your inheritance, but you have to inherit it, and nobody else will inherit it for you. A life of victory and joy is yours, but you have to fight for it. Yes, fight for it. You have to, as Paul told Timothy, fight the good fight of faith, take hold of the eternal life to which you were called, and all you've ever needed, God has given you. Stop missing the wonderful life God has waiting for you, my friend. It's yours for the taking. Take it. Want more? Ask for the lady in the temple. Now imagine being plugged into a special line that lets you in on future events, the news behind the news, biblical prophecy, updates on Israel, and what you need to know as an end-time believer, plus teachings and strength for every day of your week. And the incredible mystery of the temple doors, all free. How do you get this? Easy. Just remember Jesus' Hebrew name, Yeshua, and dial it. That's all you do. Just dial 1-800-YESHUA-1 and ask for it. You'll be blessed, but call now. 1-800-YESHUA-1. Now I invite you to join with me to reach the unreached peoples of the world in the most incredible way, from Moscow to Madagascar, even Jerusalem. Just call now. 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's YESHUA-1. Or write me direct, The Nice Jewish Boy, at Box 1111, Lodi, New Jersey, 07644. That's The Nice Jewish Boy, Box 1111, Lodi, Lodi, New Jersey, 07644. Well, till next time, this is Jonathan Kahn saying, Shalom Aleichem, peace be to you, my friend, in Messiah, Roeh HaTov, the Good Shepherd.
This is Truth to Ponder with Bob Bierman.
And I want to welcome you back to part 2 of our Thursday edition of Truth to Ponder, the day after the inauguration, or should I say the hangover after what happened yesterday. I've got a few things I want to discuss in this half hour. I'm going to go in a totally different direction, but things you really need to hear so you can actually get an accurate understanding of where things are really headed. You've listened to all the people that all these crazy theories. Even during the break, I'm looking at my email, and I'm getting an email from one of those prophets that said Trump was going to win. You know, they act like they didn't make the mistake, and they're going to move forward with a big conference. Oh, come on, give me a break. You're a phony prophet. Give it up. There's some job openings at a grocery store to pack bags. If you're going to make phony prophecies, stop it. Get out of the business. Shut your ministry down. I'm sorry, Jeremiah. You blew it. You put your reputation out there. So many of these guys did. Oh, God spoke to me and said Trump's going to win on election day. Fear not. You'll wake up on the 4th and he'll be the president. They were wrong. And I'll tell you why they were wrong in just a couple of minutes. I want to thank those that listen to this program. And I'm sorry that I'm kind of ranting and raving yesterday and today, just trying to get us through this little transition we're going through. And I'm waiting for the next set of videos to appear to tell me that it's all going to turn around in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Are they still going to be producing these videos in 2 years when we're up for a congressional election? I'll give you my theories in a moment. I want to thank those of you that have been writing me by email. You can go to the website, truth2ponder.com. You can send me an email directly if you'd like. It's really easy. Bob@truth2ponder.com. Truth2ponder.com. Those emails come only directly to me. We're a very little small operation. I'm working out of an itty-bitty studio the size of a closet at our little house up in Georgia. And it's just my wife and I and our 2 little dogs. And I get the email, she picks up the mail. And I work on this program every day, trying to read, study, pray, get into God's Word more than I have. Yeah, I've been as bad as many of you. We've been so obsessed with this election. We've been so obsessed with trying to get every bit of news about the election, we sometimes fail to spend some time in the good news of Jesus Christ. We get all bent out of shape. A number of you have financially been supporting this ministry, and I looked at the mail yesterday, and I just wanted, tears were in my eyes because of the generosity of so many of you. And somehow I'm going to find the time this weekend for those that mailed something. I'm going to mail you something back unless I know that you don't want me to. And I know there are a few out there that, due to family circumstances, they would rather I don't reply, so I don't. But I can't begin to thank you enough. When I started this endeavor, when it was just laid on my heart to do this program, I didn't even know what the program was going to be about. I've been doing the weekend show, as some of you know, since 2015. And next month, end of February, is the 6th anniversary of the first recorded program that aired on WRMI. And so we'll be entering our 7th year of doing a radio show. Now, this was only 1 day a week back in the beginning. But this year, with the pandemic and all the angst, anger, bitterness, fear, you name it, watching things happen that are just so irregular even for our country. I mean, I'm seeing stuff that's even nuttier than usual. We're going to have mail-in voting. And some states have the audacity, hey, let's mail a ballot to everybody that ever voted or ever registered. Even if they never voted, let's just go ahead and mail ballots to everybody. And you got people saying, I had 6 ballots show up in my apartment for 6 different people. Can I fill all of them out? I mean, this is the kind of insanity by design. It was insanity by absolute design. It was a great way, and everybody warned about it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Even somebody, by the way, my wife shared a story. Now, I was raised in New York State. A million years ago, but I was raised in New York State. Went to a Lutheran school through the 8th grade. Then we moved to a small town in upstate New York, and I did high school in a little town near Lake Ontario, east of Rochester, New York. About 30 miles east, 35, something like that. Kind of in the Finger Lakes region as well. And back then we had a thing called the Regents High School Diploma. And you may have never heard of that term. There were several kind of diplomas you could get back when I went to school. in the Stone Ages. You could get a Regents diploma, which meant you took a lot of hard courses, and you're going to college. That is kind of the best diploma you could get back in the day. Then there was the general diploma, and I think there was one for industrial arts and trade school. They called it BOCES, I believe. So we had a variety. And most of us were always told to go into the Regents track, so we did. And there were some good things about it, some bad things about it. But, you know, we got a good education back in the 60s and into the very, very early 70s. I can't complain about my public school education from those days. I really can't. But see, New York is just disposed of. They just got rid of the Regents diploma. So everybody can be equally as ignorant now, is probably the new methodology. Look, the state is like going to have to raise taxes. Duh, surprise. You shut everything down. You chase hundreds of thousands of people to move out of your state, and suddenly, what do you mean we don't have enough money to spend? We got to raise taxes. Yeah, I wonder how many more people are going to leave. This is the stupidity of New York State. They raise the taxes go up so people move out. So what's their response? Hey, raise the taxes some more. Will the last person to leave New York State turn off the lights? Now, I want to thank those of you that in these new and perilous times are supporting this radio program. And I hope to be both a voice of reason and sanity to you during this strange time we're going in. All the predictions that Trump signed the insurrection orders and the military's really there to surround the Capitol to arrest them all. Yeah, how did that work out for you? And I could have told you that's how it was going to work out. I know, and many of you listening, we know there was an election theft. My dad was very clear that he had no doubt in his mind in 1960 that JFK, well, not JFK, but the party stole it in many places. Probably should have been Richard Nixon in 1960. After all, Eisenhower was a pretty popular president. But they manufactured this wonderful candidate in Kennedy, and surprisingly, he was too conservative for the swamp of the day. I wonder if that may be what did him in. And Martin Luther King, I sometimes wonder about those two assassinations about 4 years apart, a little over 4 years apart. The swamp runs deep. The swamp wants to keep you and I divided. The swamp wants to keep conservatives misinformed. That's why they keep putting out all this idiotic nonsense that people keep spreading on social media. And all you do is empower the Jack Dorseys of this world to cut you off for saying stupid and false stuff. You fall right into the trap. You heard what I had in the first half hour. By the way, as I was saying, thank you for your support. And if you want to mail a check, you can do that to 21 Berkshire, Berkshire, 21 Berkshire Lane. And we are in Sky Valley, Georgia. By the way, with 21 Berkshire Lane, add a number 263 on that top line. So it's 21 Berkshire Lane, number 263. That's our little P.O. box that the nice little lady at the mail room uses to find us easier. That's Sky Valley, Georgia, 30537. Once again, the website, you can support us from there. Find out more or send an email. And that's truth2ponder.com. As I was saying, we're about to go into some really weird and bizarre times. In the days leading up to yesterday's inauguration, Joe Biden, or I should say his team, because honestly, I don't think that he's really running the show. He is the placeholder. He is the placeholder for Kamala Harris to be the first woman and woman of color president of this country. She never could have got it on her own merits. And so they reinvented good old Joe And at any time they need to, Joe will leave. Either the Hunter Biden scandal will take him down, or the 25th Amendment will take him down. If they make it to 2 years and a day, hey, then she could run for 2 full terms. We could have 10 years of her instead of just 8. But the truth is, she and her team, they're really running the show anyway, and you know it. They have to do favors now to every strange little group that makes up their insane coalition. I mean, it's the most insane coalition. And I think of those people that did vote. There are people that I know. This one dear old lady who's thoroughly deceived. She just never liked Trump. For whatever reason, I don't like him. He has a personality I don't like. So I'm going to vote for Biden. And I say, so are you pro-life? Well, the answer was she wouldn't answer because, it's kind of like she knew where I stood. Maybe she has a bit of guilt, but she voted for him anyway. And so I said, so when gasoline prices go up, oh, what do you mean they're going to go up? Yes, they're going to go up. He's stopping the Keystone pipeline. We are energy exporters. Now we're going to be importers again. Prices are going to go up because of the idiotic Green New Deal for people with green brains. Gas prices are going up. That means food prices are going up. That means electrical cost will eventually rise. Food's going up, but our taxes didn't go up. Yeah, of course, sure they didn't go up. Your federal taxes will probably not go up. Why? Because they're going to get nailed on everything else. The government gets their hand at every step of the way. We don't have to raise your income taxes. We can just raise other fees and tariffs, and you get to pay for it as the end user anyway. Are you too blind to see that? There's no such thing as a free lunch. So Biden's going to give us the Green New Deal, and it's not going to have a cost. We're going to get back on the Paris Climate Accord, which is basically screw America and let China reign and do whatever they want to do. That's what it is. Every stupid idea is now being embraced by this new POTUS and his team. Or I should say, this team and the figurehead POTUS. And of course, to make everybody happy, oh yeah, start looking at the team he's assembling.
Man, I feel like a woman.
Ah, yes, we have the new assistant health secretary being named as we know her. I'm trying to remember what his name really was. Rachel Levine. Now remember, Rachel is the one that took her or his mother out of the nursing home before shoving coronavirus patients in Pennsylvania. Now, what you need to know about Rachel Levine is a couple of things. Rachel used to be a man, was married, had children, got a divorce not that many years ago from his wife, and decided to become a woman. And I'm sorry, but I look at you, I hear your voice, you are not a woman. Every time I look at your curly hair, you remind me, I'm sorry, Rachel, whatever your real name is, every time I see you on television, this is the image in my brain I get.
Tiptoe through the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
I'm sorry, Rachel, but no matter what you may want to believe, no matter what chemicals you're taking to alter your body, you're not a woman. And I'm sorry, when I look at you on the television, especially back in the days when you were the health secretary or whatever the job is up in Pennsylvania, talking about coronavirus lockdowns, no matter how you cut it, you look like Tiny Tim in drag. I'm sorry, but that's all I can tell you. You're not a woman. You have a mental illness that needs treatment, and the fact that they put you in a job like you've got, and you don't even understand that you're ill, that's a scary thought. But welcome to the new world we're coming into for a season. I've been telling you on this program, the church needs to be preparing for a different time and a different way of doing business. The tech giants have found ways of shutting off things they don't want you to hear. We've also seen, and unless corrected by the courts, and I don't hold out a whole lot of hope there, the tech tyrants are going to collude together and decide what you're allowed to see, hear, and think. It'll be gradual. It'll take time. But you saw how fast things change after the 6th of January. You know, we're only talking like 15, 16 days ago. How quickly things changed on a dime. The President of the United States Twitter account just shut down. Of course, anybody that's on Twitter, you're wasting your time. I never liked it to begin with. I kind of got, suckered into using it, so to speak, because, we got to get the word out about the show. I'm finding there's a better way to get the word out for this radio show. That's word of mouth. That's you. And God seems to be, I got to tell you a story. This is important to hear. And next week we'll get into some of the strange things I'm beginning to try to write out and just get a feel so I can give you an honest assessment of where all of these things are heading and how the church can be best prepared. But one thing I've noticed, God always has a church, he always has a remnant, he always has a way. And so many of the false prophets of the past months and the past year, the past decade, I've worked for some phony frauds out there that keep reinventing themselves. The day I have to reinvent myself for this radio show is the day that this radio show's plug needs to be pulled. I'm not going to be telling you, here's the Christ, there's the Christ. Oh, this fits into Revelation this way. I got an email from a ministry the other day. I'm not going to name it. I'm on a lot of lists, so there's a lot of places I get things from. Their founder died not long ago, and now they're trying to sell the book that he wrote on prophecy just before he died. And, they're trying to keep the ministry afloat. I get it. I understand it. But he's one of those types in his career that's been wrong a number of times. This fits into this, and according to that verse in Isaiah, tied to this one over in Daniel, and you kind of squeeze it together with what Jesus said in Matthew 23 and over here in Revelation, and you turn around and come back and look at they're trying to fit square pegs into round holes. Too many of these prophecy DVDs, and back in the day when I was first in Christian radio, cassette tapes, had a tendency to be like that. Just like the late, great Planet Earth. Totally wrong on virtually every assessment. Yet people keep going back to these same authors over and over again. Is it punishment? We're coming into a very unique time. And I've been warning you, regardless of the election, the best you could hope for back in November, Donald Trump was not going to fix the world and make it ready for Jesus to come back. I can't make it any more clear. The world is a decaying place. It's on a destiny with Jesus. And you can't stop that. We're supposed to be aware of the times in which we live, and we should be preparing. While too many of us, and even in this show at times, I try not to be, we're focused on the politics, there's a whole field ripe for harvest. People that need to be bought into the kingdom of God. We don't win spiritual battles at a corrupted ballot box. We don't win spiritual warfare on Facebook and Twitter or Instagram or any of that stuff. That's not where the battle's going to be fought. It's fought in the hearts of man and women. One by one, the good news of Jesus Christ, by the power of the Holy Spirit, a person comes into that saving knowledge and is redeemed and is a part of the kingdom. The churches that have abandoned the gospel, they're going to be celebrated by this new administration as being so compassionate, so understanding, so caring, and so non-condemning. After all, Buddha works just as good as Jesus, doesn't he, for getting you to that happy place? The one world religion. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about things to expect. The global reset, the financial, it's all coming. But the Lord kind of spoke to my heart last night. This is not a prophecy. This is just an encouragement. We've been here before. This is not our first rodeo with the powers of the Antichrist. In John's epistle, he says the spirit of Antichrist is already here. We're not waiting. We don't need to wait for the Antichrist to appear. The spirit is already here. It's in our governments. After all, the vast majority of people in government are not elected. They have jobs. And anybody that disturbs the way they do their job like Trump did, they got to get rid of them. We are on a collision course for a day in the future. And we need to be ready as a church. The ballot box didn't save us. All those videos, all these prophecies, they were failures. And we're going to see a clown show of people being put up to be in charge of certain aspects of our government. Every woke, every politically correct, every weirdness is going to be celebrated. Get used to it. Don't even fear it. Just smile and say, I know my Jesus. My Jesus, I love thee. I know you are true. We're going to have to become the church again. What a concept. Not some entertainment center with a light show. And not some place where everybody's woke and happy and clings to this other fake and false gospel. Jesus wants his church back. Church, where have you been? Tomorrow's program is a little different. I had the opportunity of being a guest on a radio show this past weekend. I'm going to give you a few highlights on the weekend version of the show. We're going to start learning how to prepare, learning how to have hope in a hopeless time. Truth to ponder is the truth that can give you hope. Not that Bob Bierman has that hope, but Jesus does. If you believe in the work that we're doing here, would you consider helping us? Our mailing address is Truth to Ponder, 21 Berkshire, Berkshire, 21 Berkshire Lane, ad number 263. That's our little P.O. box up here. 21 Berkshire Lane, number 263, Sky Valley, Georgia, 30537. 30537. You can make your check payable to Ancient Word Radio. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, may God richly bless you.
This has been Truth to Ponder with Bob Bierman. To find out more, visit our website, truth, 2, and the word ponder.com. That's truth, 2, ponder.com. Truth to Ponder, shining the light of truth in a darkening world.